you've got? I'd expect more from a Yakuza matriarch, though maybe not one as short as you.
Can it, koi face? If your flesh didn't taste like dirt, I would have eaten you alive already.
Typical Keiga response. More fang than brain, it seems. Give up already. Your thugs have already been dispatched. If you surrender now, I'll call off my troops and let you out alive.
You think your filthy Haniwa idols can stop me? Make no mistake, those human spirits belong to us. They are property, and we are here to collect.
Human spirits belong to no one. Unlike you beasts, they are free to choose who they follow, whether gods, kings, or none.
You're fighting a pointless war! The spirits made their choice when they were still alive. They choose to treat us beasts as though we were objects. They starved us, beat us, and pierced us with flaming rods. They laughed in our suffering, so we laugh in theirs. Who are you to interfere with divine justice?
Your idea of justice is flawed. Your torture of these souls doesn't reform them. It doesn't change what they've done, and it brings no closure to the spirits they wronged. All it does is uphold your lawless society.
What would you know about justice? You're an empty husk of a slave, chained around the neck by an impure goddess. You fight for the humans because you were told to. What makes your master any different from me?
Master rescued the human souls. She delivered them from suffering and has given them new life. How dare you compare her mercy to your anarchistic society?
We're animals, idol. We hunt, we kill, we survive. I don't care about your petty morals. They won't help you pin down your prey or escape the jaws of death. You call it anarchism. We call it nature. The strong survive and the weak perish. Simple as is. Humans disrupted that balance, and we have finally rebuilt it here in the animal realm. I'm not letting you take this away. When I'm finished with you, I'll tear your god to pieces myself. I'll ruin your fortress, and when nothing but ashes remain, I'll show the surface world who the real gods are. I don't want to be praised. I want to be feared.
Gensokyo is a place of fantasy and mysticism, and it is a time capsule of a dead world. The magic that was once commonplace in Japan has faded, and Gensokyo exists to preserve a tiny bubble of that ancient magic. The last remainders of this magic exist in the form of religion. Religion, as defined for the purposes of this study, is any practice or philosophy rooted in the supernatural. In the outside world, many religions exist, and often disagree with one another on what should be considered the truth. In Gensokyo, however, it is clear that the idea of religion is a narrow view on the truth of the universe. Every religion sees an aspect of reality that is true, and so the gods observed in Gensokyo span every religion in existence. It would be incorrect to say that every religion is true in Gensokyo, but rather that every god in every religion can exist in Gensokyo. This study is an examination of the gods that exist and could exist within Gensokyo. In our world, we are not alone. Spirits exist in every creature, object, and space. If we believe in those spirits, they gain the power of faith, and they can ascend to godhood. The names given to these spirits tell us about how we see them, and can take many forms. Some spirits are malignant and undesirable, monsters of the night bringing death and disease. Others bring wealth and fortune, but always at a price. The gods that rise from the spirits of the earth are known as our native gods. Native gods are rarely seen in the outside world. Since they are sustained on faith, they are starving in our increasingly secular world. As the magic of the earth fades, the spirits become silent, only to show their hands to those who believe. Where magic lives, these spirits take sanctuary. The greatest of these sanctuaries is Gensokyo. The world of mysticism is sealed away from the technological progress of the outside world, allowing the spiritual creatures within to flourish in the faith of its residents. Native gods are so prominent in Gensokyo that many of them are known by name and even appearance. This is a study of some of the native gods we have discovered. Many native gods are called kunitsu-kami. These are the spirits of the earth and generally thought to be beneficial to mankind. When these spirits are offered sacrifices of food, money, and faith, they show their benevolent side, and they protect their shrines and followers. Many of these kunitsu-kami are also part of the Yaoyorozu no Kami, the infinite sea of gods. These gods are innumerable. Each resides over a highly specific domain which can become its shrine. A domain that greatly affects the lives of humans will attract prayers and worship, whether it brings great boons or fearsome banes. The great inviting deity moved across the field of clovers. Touched by the impurity of the land of the dead, he sought a way to cure himself. As he stopped by a river mouth, he disrobed and began to wash away the residual death on his skin. As his heavenly trousers covered the earth, a spirit made itself known to the world. This spirit would come to reside over the domain of commerce. At every marketplace, a shrine would be constructed at its crossroads to allow this god to oversee fair and honest business. For this, the god would be named Chimata Tenkyuu, the rainbow god of the crossroads. Chimata used her domain to relinquish possession of objects. A merchant could now truly give away his craft while the customer parted with their payment. This god chose the rainbow as her sign, and when the rainbow appeared in the sky, her followers knew that the boundary between earth and heaven was weak. And so a tradition was born. When the full moon bore a rainbow, the markets would open, allowing gods and humans to engage in honest trade for a night. However, the reign of the bustling marketplace would not last. The rise of industry led to worldwide marketplaces. Trade extended so far across the world that Chimata could no longer watch over it all. With a growing global market came a demand for communication, a demand that was answered by the internet. Nowadays, many first-world consumers will rarely visit a market or engage in any face-to-face bartering. Online purchases are the new standard, a standard that Chimata has no dominion over. As the need for markets diminished, so too did her worship and donations. Faced with the threat of being forgotten, the rainbow goddess moved to Gensokyo to establish a new marketplace. But the Tengu are pervasive. No corner evades their eyes, no conspiracy escapes their grasp. As Chimata danced across the chromatic skies, who would approach other than the chief of the Crow Tengu, Megumu Izunamaru? Desiring to advance her influence in Gensokyo, she partnered with Chimata to consecrate Gensokyo's first divine marketplace. And so, under the blessings of the lunar rainbow and the guidance of the Tenma's starry sky, 4 figures stood. A ruthless yokai captain, a dragon-slaying princess, a wicked white fox, and the vestige of the spirit of commerce. As the border between worlds fell away like a curtain, Chimata opened the first great market. Some say that the gods are fictional representations of reality and history. If one tells a story about a war between gods, others may dismiss it as a mythicization of the real-world events. This kind of rhetoric fails to realize that the hands of the gods are present in every mortal affair. A war between 2 family clans for dominance and control is only the proxy for divine politics. Perched upon the spire of the grand shrine of Suwa, the god of earth stood fast. Facing countless blows against the invading god, Suwako brandished steel chakram and held her ground. For the glory of the Moriya people, for the security of her own faith, for the birthright of her own great shrine, she must fight. She must win. Across a fractured lake of ice stood her opponent, proud and tall. God of the heavens, avatar of serpents, Kanako Yasaka wove her hands through the frozen soil, conjuring vines of wisteria. she would test the greatness of the native faith of Suwa. The vines entangled Suwako, restricting and disarming her. The blades of her chakram dulled and rusted to pieces at her feet. She struggled and fought, but the forces of nature brought her to her knees. Her subordinate gods had fallen, her half-divine shrine maiden had fallen, and now the great Moriya god herself had fallen. On that day, on that venerable ancient battlefield, the Suwa Daimyojin was established. Kanako wasted not a moment recognizing herself as the new god of Suwa. However, her conquest was short-sighted, for the Moriya clan was not at rest. Without the power of Suwako, axes dulled, plows chipped, and carts fell apart. The smiths and warriors of the region were without a patron, and were slow to accept the rule of this new god. And so, to preserve the faith of the shrine, Kanako offered the formerly enshrined deity a new partnership. Suwako was once again allowed to live in the back of the shrine, in exchange for performing divine miracles for the Moriya clan. With the divine miracles of Suwako bringing faith to the shrine once more, Kanako became the new face of Suwa, handling the business and marketing while Suwako carried out the holy duties. In the end, this partnership would prove beneficial for both. But no great business lasts forever. As the world moved on, Kanako and Suwako both found themselves scraping at every possible opportunity to accrue faith. Once again proving herself to be the leader of the shrine, Kanako devised a plan to carry their shrine into a new business frontier. A place where spirits and yokai were as commonplace as trees and animals. A place of mysticism and religion. And so, a divine spirit of heaven, a native god of faith, and a demigod of wind traveled to the peak of Gensokyo's great mountain to establish a new shrine. Hell is, well, that is exactly what it is. An infinite abyss of misery and unholy malediction. The final resting place of the vile and accursed is alive with fires hot enough to burn away the impurity of a lifetime. Betwixt the hells for murderers and traitors lies the animal spirit realm, an especially brutal lair. Here lie the souls of men who abused and tortured animals. In the cruelest irony, those who tyrannized animals are themselves subjugated by the spirits of powerful beast-like demons. This survivalist society uplifts the mighty and crushes the weak, and here, man is the weakest creature. Faced with no escape, the humans called out to an ancient god of the earth, the Haniyasushin. Their prayers rose out of the urban smog of the animal spirit realm and reached the ears of Keiki, who began to craft a plan. Her hands traced the soil, and scalpels and hooks took hold of the clay within. From the veins of the earth were drawn an army of idols. Born from the earth and shaped by the gods, the Haniwa Corps was primed to storm the beast metropolis. Led by their relentless commander, Mayumi Jotogu, the Haniwa raised hell. The animal spirits are powerful and intelligent in their own element, but they stand little chance against outside forces. Invading humans are foiled by the cunning charisma of the Kiketsu, who corrupt the minds of their opponents. The Haniwa Corps, however, suffered no such weakness. The faith of their followers, combined with their total loyalty, steeled their nerves, making them a formidable force against the beast Oni. Unyielding, unwavering, undying, the Haniwa stormed the primate spirit garden, the prison of the human spirits. There, Keiki established her godhood before her adoring believers. They believed that she had come to free them, but the politics of hell are never so simple. Keiki set to work shaping the landscape of hell with her godly tools. From the garden rose a mighty fortress to house human spirits. Instead of returning the human spirits to Earth, Keiki knew that she stood at a crossroad of opportunities. Her subjects were entirely reliant on her, and their faith was her lifeblood. After all, why should she free them? Was it unjust for these sinners to be rent asunder by the teeth of those they had trampled in life? Should the ego of man not be crushed into its rightful place? No, these vermin don't deserve to live. They deserve to rot here. I will lead them. I will give them new life. I will make them perfect. Not all gods are worshipped for bringing goodness into the world. As sure as there are gods that embody blessings and goodness, there are gods that bring curses and evil. One might offer faith to such gods, not to bring them near, but rather to keep them far away. If satisfied with prayers and offerings, these malevolent gods may lie dormant, keeping their curses to themselves. However, some of these gods are not content with worship alone. Sister is a strange title for a god. The relationships of spiritual creatures can't be translated into mortal languages, but we can use some words to convey similar ideas. Two goddesses with similar roots and desires may join together into a familial bond. Such is the case for the Yorigami sisters. A greedy Yakujin crept in the shadows, delivering baleful diseases on anyone who crossed her path. Joon, the goddess of pestilence, was a con man through and through. Allied with Shion, a poverty spirit cursed with insurmountable bad luck, Joon became a scam artist able to shake the heavens. While Joon used her quick wit and charisma to fast-talk people into scams, Shion exuded her aura of poverty to cause her sister's targets to lose their wealth and possessions. The nature of these scams was so clever that many victims truly believed that they were giving away their money out of their own free will. However, Joon is smart, and she knows not to run the same gig twice. Perfect possession. A bizarre phenomenon that allows a person to take hold of the mind and body of another. Seemingly overnight, powerful and mischievous duos began to appear around Gensokyo, challenging others to fights and bringing chaos all around. One of these duos was rumored to be unbeatable. Anyone who challenged the misfortune-bringing duo seemed to fail by sheer bad luck alone. Who else but the Yorigami sisters could be behind such a devious scheme? But one question remained in the minds of all who were affected by perfect possession. Why? Fortunately, or perhaps rather unfortunately, this question would be answered soon enough. Sounds of festivity and celebration echoed through the nighttime streets of the village. Most everyone was asleep by this time, and those who hadn't were gathered outside in the nearby Garden of the Sun. The Prism River sisters were performing a live concert, and the audience was roaring with excitement. But something was off. Never before had the Prism River sisters seen such energy and eagerness from the crowd. It almost felt supernatural. Before long, the humans began to empty their pockets, flinging their jewelry, coin, and all valuables onto the stage. Piles of gold and gems made a jingling noise as they piled up around the designer boots of an easygoing egoist. Once again, the Yorigami sisters had taken everything. Not all gods have great histories to their names. Some may never be known outside of their native region, and subsist only on nameless prayers offered in their domain. Many of these gods are not known by name, but only by the miracles they perform. Oftentimes they are not unique, and may fall under a larger category of gods. The total pantheon of gods is immeasurable, and so I have elected to only mention a handful of the lesser gods that are known by name and mentioned in a handful of myths and legends. These are the minor native gods of Gensokyo. There is a season for all things under the sun. Autumn is the season of harvest, and in Gensokyo, that harvest is brought about by two sister goddesses, Minariko Aki and Shizuha Aki. Minariko is the more famous of the two, since her domain of the harvest allows her to bless human farmers with rich crop yields. However, Minariko is only one of many harvest gods, so she often finds herself competing with other similar deities for worship. Shizuha has an equal difficulty accruing faith, though this is not due to competition, but rather due to a lack of notoriety. Shizuha beckons the spirit of autumn by painting the leaves of Gensokyo, bathing the landscape in bright reds, golds, and ambers. Autumn as we know it would not exist without the tireless work of Shizuha, but regrettably, this work of hers often goes unnoticed. If the sights and tastes of autumn bring you joy, don't forget to thank your local seasonal goddesses. All prisons must have a warden. All gates must have a keeper. Hell is the prison of the damned, and so it must have an overseer to decide who may enter and who may exit. A clerical god was elected to fill this role, Futaka Nyatari. The Yama, the gods who reside over the domains of justice and death, determined that this god was worthy enough to discern between humans and Oni, and they chose for her to watch over the gates of hell. Kutaka is now the sentinel of all outer planes, guarding the borders between worlds to ensure that the balance of good, evil, purity, and impurity is upheld. When humans from the outside world decide to cross into hell, Kutaka may meet them to test their strength and weigh their intentions. She has genuine compassion for all mortals, and she may deny them entrance if she believes that they are too weak to survive. Considering the horrors that live beyond the gates of hell, it is comforting to know that such a caring god is watching over it. As gods can rise from objects, animals, or places, so too can they rise from ordinary people. A person that brings great faith to a region through miraculous acts or inspiring leadership may ascend to the status of godhood. In the late 19th century, rumors were spreading about a man by the name of Toyotaka Haga. It was said that this man's bright countenance was so strong that any store he entered would surely prosper. His charming smile was never brought down, and it was said that he never knew a stranger. So great was his aura of good luck that upon his death he became known as a deity, Shiro Sendai. Stores and companies now hang photographs of the man inside their establishments, in hopes that his spirits will smile upon them. Some say that when an honorable business is faced with closing down, a certain cheery-eyed man just might walk through those doors. Before the rise of the Suwa Daimyojin, Suwako was known as the most mighty god of the Suwa region. With her great strength, she was able to subjugate many of the lesser gods of her region. One type of god that was prominent in Suwa was the Mishiguji. Mishiguji were once baleful serpentine gods that were feared by all. These gods represented both powerful blessings and horrible curses. If one was feared and given faith by its local population, it would slither across the landscape, leaving flowering trees and fruitful crops. However, if ignored or angered, the same gods would breathe a deadly smoke across the earth. This breath carried magical curses that could be used to fell armies, corrupt families, and render the ground barren. The Mishiguji were among the oldest and most feared gods, but their reign of terror would be cut short by Suwako. She delivered her people from the tyranny of the Mishiguji and brought those gods under her control. Now the Mishiguji are mere servants of Suwako, delivering goodness to her followers and curses to her enemies. And so I ask you, dear listener, who is more worthy of faith than the god who conquers gods? On the topic of gods who rule gods, there is another great deity that is often forgotten in Gensokyo. So hidden is the god of the year and age that he is often remembered only in passing by those who have traveled to the mainland. A deity so fierce that his formless spirit is represented in the dark nightmares of those who know his name. Taishoi Shingjun. This malevolent king resides over spirits of evil and is always causing chaos. Often depicted as a warrior with 3 heads and 6 arms, Taishoi is relentless in his path to destroy the earth. Though he never shows himself, Taishoi's minions can be found prowling the earth, searching for every opportunity to bring about pandemonium. In times past, supernatural creatures were grouped together based on external similarities. 2 creatures that lived in the same environment and shared similar habits were, for all intents and purposes, the same creature. However, in the era of science and skepticism, we understand the concept of taxonomy, and we know that similar creatures may have many internal differences. Such is the case regarding Kahaku and Kappa. Both are mighty river spirits who lead dubious and mysterious lives, but despite their similarities, their origins are far apart. The Kahaku are gods of the river that demand great sacrifices, and when deprived of their demands, will cause floods and storms from the rivers they inhabit. Some are even powerful enough to gain local faith. There are Kahaku living in Gensokyo, though they often lack notoriety and are typically mistaken for Kappa. When someone or something is purified, where does that impurity go? When a person washes away the stains of misfortune and disease, what happens to them? Well, just like any sin, there must be a scapegoat. In some cultures, that scapegoat may be a sacrifice of crops or finances, and in some cases, it may well be a literal scapegoat. In Gensokyo, small thatched dolls serve this purpose. In hopes for a brighter year, the residents of the human village transfer their impurity onto these dolls and send them floating away down a river, never to be seen again. This does not destroy the impurity, however, and the process is not yet complete. To protect the infection from spreading to innocent bystanders farther down the river, these dolls are collected by a certain Yakujin, Hina Kageyama. Though she is often not worshipped or given any attention, Hina is a sort of guardian goddess. She absorbs the misfortune carried in these dolls into her own body. She watches over the humans wishing to approach the Great Mountain and prevents the lost from wandering into dangerous territory. Her job is not a respected one, but she is nonetheless relied on by humans all across Gensokyo. And for now, this is where we part. There are many gods left to discuss, and I will examine them in future studies. As our knowledge of the world of Gensokyo deepens, I will continue to document them as I have before. If you have any thoughts on this study, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. If you enjoyed taking this journey with me, please consider subscribing to my channel so that you can join me on many more to come. Thank you for listening to my tales, and until we meet again, have a wonderful evening.